Luper Show with Mrs. Clara Luper.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a happy good evening to you wherever you are. This is the Clara Luper Radio Show, and today's show is being brought to you by Rainbow, and Rainbow is good bread. A delegation of NACP youth members and I went to Tulsa this morning to an 8 o'clock planning session for the state convention. I would like to congratulate Nate Patterson, Dante Patterson, Alicia Hildred, and Shelley Luper for the contribution they made in Tulsa. The convention will be the last week in October, and we are very happy that there will be a workshop. And today, the Oklahoma City delegation recommended Bobby Battle as one of the speakers. Well, the NACP in Tulsa had a large Fighting Fund for Freedom dinner, and they were still talking about their contribution and what they are doing. They are planning one of the largest conventions in the history of Oklahoma, of the state of Oklahoma. The convention will be held at the Camelot Lodge in Oklahoma, in Tulsa. It's called the Camelot Inn. We will be telling you more about that next week as we make plans to be a part of the 1989 State Convention of NACP. Today's program is dedicated to those that have fought and died for freedom. And someone asked me today in Tulsa, Clara, why is it that it's so important that the whole country know about the Black History Monument? And I tried to tell them that somewhere down the line we've got to stop and be proud of ourselves. We've got to be proud of our history. We cannot continue to memorize and quote everybody else's history but our own. We must look at our own history, and let's turn the pages of history back to that hot August day in 1619 when the first blacks came to America. They came not from just Africa, but it was from West Africa. And they settled at Jamestown, Virginia, and thus started that long struggle for freedom. On the monument, you will see West Africa. You will see the slave ships, and as you look at it, you will feel the heart beat and the craving for freedom that was in the hearts of those 20 people that landed in America. Then the face of a Harriet Tubman leading her people to freedom. Frederick Douglass, knowing that the secret of freedom is to get an education, going back into the South, crying out and speaking for freedom. You will see a Dred Scott who stood in front of the United States Supreme Court in 1857 with a dream in his heart of freedom and the realization that the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, stated that Dred Scott, you are a slave, you are a nobody, go back, go back. And history will teach us that on that day, Dred Scott said in his own broken language, someday, some way, don't ask me when, some black will stand in front of the Supreme Court and receive justice. On that monument, you will see a picture of a sojourner truth who inspired Frederick Douglass with some heart-warming words when Frederick Douglass was discouraged, and certainly you get discouraged in this business of trying to do what's right. And Sojourner Truth asked Frederick Douglass, is God dead? On this monument, you will see the picture of a white woman whose father was a minister and who wrote Uncle Tom's Cabinet. Her name is Harriet Beecher Stowe. The Black History Monument will tell the story of how it all happened and how we got to where we are today. There will be a picture of an Abraham Lincoln signing the Emancipation Proclamation, giving freedom to 4.5 million blacks on that eventful day, January the 1st, 1863. And then we will move on down the pages of history with an Ada Loy Scipia knocking on the door at Oklahoma University, making it possible for today's football team that's playing this minute to have black players that are outstanding. On the monument, you will see a picture of Roscoe Dungy, who with a pen cried out for freedom for years and fought. How was the Ada Lloyd Cypriot case financed? Who were the preachers that were helping? You will find the names of a Reverend E.W. Perry, Reverend Johnson, the pastor of St. John's Baptist Church, and Reverend J.H. Wynn. You will also see the picture of E.W. McLaurin, who went to Oklahoma University and who sat behind a rope and on outside of some classrooms, and who took the university to the Supreme Court in order that the Supreme Court could rule that there would be no segregation within the university. You will see the young Thurgood Marshall, who at that time was the legal counsel for NACP. Then you will see those men and women that fought and died for freedom. There will be a Medgar Evers. There will be a Martin Luther King. There will be the teardrops of a Daisy Bates and the heart-warm memories of a Little Rock Nine. A picture of Harry Truman signing a document that eliminated segregation in the armed forces. A picture of a Lyndon B. Johnson, who did more for black people than any other president, according to historians. You will see him signing the Civil Rights Bills of 1964, eliminating segregation in public accommodations, and the Voters' Rights Bill of 1965, which changed the course of history. You will see the picture of a John E. Green standing in front of a district court, arguing that blacks have certain basic rights. And once again, the words of a John F. Kennedy in which he cried out and was the only president of the United States, the first one to say that segregation was a moral issue and it was morally wrong. You will see the picture of a Reverend J.S. Sykes as he stood on the highways of America and prayed for the safety of the young people that were so deeply involved. Now you're going to ask me about the Black History Monument, and I will be telling you more about it later in this show. This evening is a very important evening because at 4 o'clock there will be an open forum that's conducted by Mrs. Thelma Parks at the St. John's Baptist Church. Later, I know you have some additional information about that, and I know you would tell me about it.
Good afternoon, radio audience. Yes, I would like to invite you to come and see what our representative has to say. This is the first time, to my knowledge, that a school board member wanted to bring a group of parents together that's in the ward where she is working, so that you may ask her questions and you may direct questions to her about your concerns, and I'm sure you are concerned about our schools. She is one of our school board members. I will be there, and I'm going to be looking for you there in big number, because all of those questions that you have been asking me, you have the privilege now to ask a board member. So come out. It is a public meeting, and it will be held at St. John, and the time is from 4 until 6 this afternoon.
Lady, I have heard a lot about the bond issue, and the more I hear about it, the less I like it. In this meeting this evening, will the school board member, Mrs. Parks, be telling us about the bond issue?
Mrs. Luper, she had planned this meeting strictly for information concerning the schools and nothing concerning the bond issue, as I understand her. She's planned this meeting, and she has had this meeting set up now for some time. And she doesn't plan to discuss mainly the bond issue.
Well, I can certainly...
However, if you have some questions...
I can certainly discuss the bond issue, because
right.
if you think that I believe by closing the schools you're going to get rid of drugs in school, you're dreaming. Because somewhere I read about what happened at Putnam City West this past week. Was it west or north? Okay.
Well, let's just say Putnam City.
No, let's not say Putnam City.
City.
Let's be right. Let's say
right.
Putnam City North.
North, all right.
Okay, in Putnam City North.
What happened?
What happened? The world knows what happened. There were some businessmen within the school system, according to the records, taking care of business, and that business happened to have been the drug business.
How old were they? 50?
Oh, no, they were 17 and 18-year-olds.
Oh,
they have been
teenage business.
Teenage business people.
In school?
In school, and there were 4
Clara,
of them.
Clara,
but
don't
what we've got
tell
to
me.
recognize, that if we are sincere about cutting out the drug trade. We're going to have to go to the source of it. That's just like cutting off something and it continues to grow back. Now, why is it that we cannot ask in this town, and I know the policemen are happy because that means that we're going to hire more policemen to guard the gates.
Well, that's right. Now, Miss Luper, now let me see. Now, if I wanted to stop something, now let me see. I wanted to stop the sales of eggs. You know what I would do?
I know what I would do, and I'm
What?
from Hoffman, Oklahoma. I'd kill the hens.
That's exactly what I would do. I would get the chickens because they're producing the eggs. And just because Mary over there is selling the eggs, I'm not going to stop that because as long as that chicken is there laying them eggs, Mary's going to get them eggs one way or the other.
But
So the correct
lady,
that problem is kill the chicken.
lady, I don't think the Board of Education intends for us to ask any questions. For example, I heard a statement that say, "Oh, Dallas has closed schools and what has happened in Dallas." But have you read any other newspapers from Dallas? Do you know Dallas has one of the highest crime rates in the United States?
Well,
Do
yes, I read that.
Okay, but the board say now we got to do like Dallas, and Dallas has this. They do not think that we are thinking. Now, talking about it, cut down burglaries. Do you know when burglaries are conducted mainly in Oklahoma City? It's not between the lunch
But
period.
mine came at 2 a.m. in the morning. Now, I don't know when this happened. When they robbed me, it was 2 a.m. in the morning.
Well, most of the burglars, and I'm sure my police officers will agree with me, are conducted at night. Now, let's look at something. If in the Oklahoma City school system, you're sending all of these kids home because they maybe got in a fight, and that's nothing unusual. People have been getting in fights in schools ever since the first school was established. But if all of them had been sent home and got in fights, we wouldn't have had any educators. I dare you to ask those kind of questions.
Now, Mrs. Luper, I just don't believe in putting up fences and fencing people in. Because did you know they closed Alcatraz? And no one's supposed to have been able to get out of Alcatraz to get out.
But see, they are giving the schools a feeling of being shut in. So if you are in high school and you are shut in, you're fenced in, what are you going to do when you get out in life and go to work? I guess they will have to shut everybody in.
Okay, now let's talk about some fencing in. I remember I went over here to Enid, and man, they had not only fenced in, but they had guards standing up there with guns and all, fenced in. And then I read where they were getting drugs out there in that penitentiary. And they were fenced in. Everybody was fenced in. Nobody came in.
Oh, you're
and
talking
they
about
got
in
drugs.
McAllister.
No,
You're talking about in El Reno.
El Reno,
Okay,
right,
don't
El Reno
say, don't say
Penitentiary.
Enid because those
I'm
people in
sorry,
Enid
El
be calling me.
Reno
Okay, they are fenced
El
in.
Reno Penitentiary.
Well, I remember a song that we used to sing when I was a child. Don't fence me in. Don't fence me in. Well, I wonder if the teachers will be able to go out and get them some barbecue. I'm sure glad I retired because I would break that rule. If I wanted to during my lunch hour, I would use my freedom. And I don't know what would happen to me. Well, if they fire me, it wouldn't make any difference because God takes care of the birds, and I know he will take care of me. I think that the issue in the Oklahoma City school system is what's happening to the kids when they get in the school system. Now, I could not believe the lack of basic programs that are being cut off. For example, what encouragement will the young kids in the Oklahoma City school system get in music? You were with me this week as we met with various principals, understanding that they don't start taking music until they get to the 5th grade.
That's right. That's what they said.
And then when you get in middle school, if you don't have the money to buy your instrument, you can't play. This
You
is
don't play.
ridiculous.
That's right, because I know I had to rent one for my child.
Okay, and you have to rent an instrument, and then how many bands, how many opportunities do the young people in middle school have to participate in any kind of thing?
Well, now, those activities are really limited, and I think we need to take a look at our curriculum system. I really do.
Let's talk about art. Is it true that you don't get art until you get in junior high school or middle school?
Well, now, according to the middle school principals,
You just get art. So therefore, we aren't concerned with art. We're concerned with a fence and more policemen. How about operettas and operas? How about classical music? Where are we going?
how about books that they need, Mrs. Luper? And how about some of the technological things that they have? Because technology has a lot of learning facilities out there that we need to put into our schools.
Do you realize that in some of the schools in Oklahoma City, some of the teachers are limited to the amount of paper they can use? You have X
Oh,
amount
yes.
you can use per month.
Right, I'm aware of that because I went through that experience.
Are you aware that some of the students don't have books, but yet we need fences? We got to
That's
have
right.
fences to improve this thing. And one thing that I like about the Oklahoma City school system, they really like to use black people. I remember when they were talking about resegregating the schools. They used
Who did they use?
They used Dr. Muse.
Oh.
And now they're talking about fencing us in. They're talking about voting bond money out to do things. And when a school system can pay its superintendent over $100,000 a year, when they can give raises at the rate of some $8,000 a year, and then they turn around and ask me to pay out of my little pocket on a limited income. I don't care if it's 10 cents.
Yeah, you know, I heard on the news the other day that it will just increase, it'll be about like less than a penny a day. Now you figure that up a year.
Are you?
They know-
Announcements, they haven't used the blacks, but when it comes to going down in your pocket, and these people know they aren't serious about fencing, about keeping drugs out, where are the drugs coming from that these poor little kids are getting? Where are they coming from?
Well, that's what I want to know because you told me these boys had it in the schools.
Well, where
And,
did they get
So
it?
it must have been in their
Where
pockets.
did
They
they
didn't
get
drive in a car into the schoolroom with it.
Well, one thing about it, if they are interested in getting rid of drugs in Oklahoma City, they will go to the sources. I know there aren't any blacks that own any airplanes that bring any drugs in here. They don't have any ships, and they don't have the money to go and buy drugs in a wholesale way. You got to recognize that, and now they're talking about what it's not going to do. If we want to really help our young people, let's help them. Let's improve their reading skills. You're saying in the Oklahoma City school system, if you make a certain grade, you can't be on the basketball team, you can't do this. Well, what can you do? That's the question we should ask, and we should invest $5 million in finding out what we can do.
Well, you know, I talked with people concerning this because what recreational activities have our Chamber of Commerce provided for our children during the summer months?
Oh, they closed, not the Chamber of Commerce, the
But
city
see,
council and the
well, the city
money
council
here.
and
Oh,
the
it's
Chamber of
simple. They
Commerce.
closed the swimming pools.
That's right.
They closed the playgrounds, and now they are
And,
saying,
and the
oh,
centers. Did you know Douglas Center was closed
Douglas
this summer?
Center was closed.
And
The
I think
golf
they're
course
opening up.
The golf course over here was closed. What
closed.
do they expect?
No activities. You stay in the house. This just like being in prison. Now fence me in, prison me in with a fence and some barbed wire. But the only thing about it, they keep confusing me. First he says it's a fence. Then he said, no, not the
It's a gate. It's
not
a
all
gate.
the fences,
It's a gate.
it's the gates. And then
Who's
he said,
gonna
no,
open the
not all the
gates?
gates, it's the cafeteria. No, not all the cafeteria, it's the air conditioning. I want them to make up their mind. Really, what is it?
Okay, if it's a cafeteria, what's going to happen to those cafeteria workers who are some of the most underpaid people in the Oklahoma City school system? They're going to have more people to feed. Does that mean they will make more money? Have you seen anything in that bond issue that will mean more money? You may call me at 478-2103, and if you don't like what I'm saying, you can sure say yours, and I mean that.
Well, that is true, but what I want them to do is start reading for themselves and start evaluating things for themselves.
They don't have to
And really-
read. They're going to get a fence, and they won't have to worry about drugs and crime.
Well, that's true. They don't have to worry about it, but they need to start thinking about it, and that thinking about it is going to cause them to worry about it.
Well, if they are thinking, they go to the polls and think enough to say, no, if you all have money to fight the integration of schools in Oklahoma City like you have fought it since the Dow case, or really since 1954, then go into that emergency account and get you some. You don't need no fence. I would ask for air conditioning and let's see,
Some
paper
books
and books.
I feel
and
if we're going to have
typewriters and computers.
If we're going to have music, provide a music room to store your instruments. You can provide a security room for the instrument and buy enough instruments for the kids to play where the parents don't have to go and buy them, rent them for kids to have a band to represent your school. I think that's ridiculous. And then you can up somebody's salary that's 3 times more than mine, and to get that in 1 year, it takes me 3 years to get that, and wouldn't still be up to where that salary is.
Well, I'm so glad I can read. I can read because I have on my glasses. My glasses came from Dr. A.L. Dowell at 934 Northeast 8th Street here in Oklahoma City. The telephone number is 2350536, and you need to read. You need to get some glasses and have them ready so when you can go in there to vote. I don't know whether you vote. Will you vote for for the bond issue, if you want it, if you want to pay some money out of your pocket to buy some fences, to hire some more policemen, you want some money out of your pocket thinking that if you spend some money, you're going to reduce crime in the daytime. They didn't say anything about these kids that are being sent home. About how many kids are being sent home in the Oklahoma City school system every day?
Well, like that, I would like to get an account for the first 9 weeks. But because I remember on one report, the first 9 weeks they had sent home better than 180 kids. One school had done this in 9 weeks' time. So they had enough out there for 2 or 3 teachers.
One thing I would like to say, and I'm going to get off of this school board because everybody in the United States know that I could not serve on a military board because I'm not a military person. Now, the school boards throughout this country have no qualifications. You don't have to be an educator to serve on the school board. And that's really, you know what, suppose I get on the medical board where I can serve. No, I couldn't serve because I'm not qualified. Well, with unqualified board members, and I say this with all my sincerity, no wonder we come up with the fencing idea and close it up because of what's happening in Dallas. And anybody in Dallas will tell you they've been shooting policemen. They have done everything in that town. They even killed the president. This is the Clara Luper radio show, and today's show is being brought to you by Marilyn Hildred, your Allstate insurance agent. Maryland is located at 848-7470-9228 North Martin Luther King here in Oklahoma City. I've been telling you about the Black History Monument that's being built, and I must thank all of you that have responded. I have never been so pleased in all my life. Now, today we are going to deal with some real controversial issues. I want you to call any friend you have that work at Tinkerfield and tell them to stand by because we have some questions about that credit union. I don't know, but maybe we aren't supposed to ask any questions. Well, anyway, if we aren't supposed to do it, we're going to do it anyhow. This is the Clara Luper radio show. And just back from Tulsa, Oklahoma, from the Camelot Inn. And Mrs. Hunter, you would have been proud of Natay and that group. You'd been proud of them.
Well, I was proud of Mrs. Luper that they would get up and leave 5 o'clock in the morning going all the way to Tulsa to work on a planning committee. I was proud that they just did that.
Well, they were there, and we are very happy that we have Oklahoma City well represented. You may call me at 478-2103, and if you don't like what I say, then you can say it yourself. It's time now to think about Miss Black Oklahoma 1990. I received a letter from the national office today complimenting me, saying that Miss Black Oklahoma offers more scholarships, more opportunities than any other pageant in the United States. And I would like to talk to you that will be in Miss Black Oklahoma 1990. Remember, the scholarships you win will be college scholarships. So if you win a scholarship, don't you come running to me asking me for your money because that shows you aren't familiar with scholarships. The scholarships, the Phillips Petroleum Scholarship, is sent directly to the school. And there's one thing you must do. You must write me and let me know what school you're in. Make sure you are in school, then they will send that to you properly.
And let me kind of clarify that statement, Mrs. Luper. It has to be a verification because I can write to you and tell you that I'm in school, and I may not. You must have the signature of a person that can verify that you have enrolled in school. And according to the paper, I would maybe need some clarification on this. I'm finding out now when you go to college and enroll, you have to at least enroll in 15 hours to be a regular enrolled student. So therefore, we need that verification that you are a fully enrolled student.
And remember, no one has to give us any scholarships. I would like to thank Mrs. Julia Anderson, who presented a scholarship to Miss Black Oklahoma this week. Thank you, Mrs. Anderson. We really do appreciate it. And certainly Mrs. Parks will be presenting her scholarship next week. And on scholarships, those of you that want to give scholarships, remember, under the rules of the Miss Black Oklahoma, the scholarships can be redeemed anytime within the year. This is the Clara Luper radio show, and now we pause for our funeral and death announcements. And be sure and remember, I got 2 hot issues. They are really too hot to handle. Clara Luper. Hello? Hello?
This is Onita.
Onita with the funeral and death announcements.
Yes. Ross Funeral Home announces the following services from Mrs. Jessie Mae Kemp of Oklahoma City. will be Monday at 1 p.m. at the Ebenezer Baptist Church. Temple Funeral Home announces the services of Mrs. Mary Billigen and that of Oklahoma City, and that is pending with the Temple Funeral Home. We would like to say to the families this evening, you have our deepest sympathy. And Christ did not say we would not die or hurt or suffer or be rejected. He did not say we would not cry or sometimes feel neglected. The one only promise that we have worth our walk through the fire is at life's end we live again, never to expire. And back to Clara.
Thank you, Onita.
Yes.
We extend our sympathy of life, which is death. This is a Clara Luper radio show. Wherever you are and whatever you're doing, I want you to listen to the stories that I'm about to tell. Sometimes stories come across our desk that are so unbelievable that we want to share them. Oh, I don't want to tell you, and that's why I invite people here so they can tell you about it. Now let me ask you a personal question. Would you believe that in the year of our Lord, 1989, a light-skinned black girl. Now let's go into a definition of what a black person is in Oklahoma. To do that, we turn to Oklahoma's Constitution. If you have one drop of black blood in you, you are black. You mean to tell me in Oklahoma, in a school, in a public school, a black young man and a light-skinned girl or a white girl can't walk down the halls? Listen to this story. This is a story that you will always remember, and certainly I have here as my very distinguished guest, Mrs. Price. Mrs. Price, how are you today?
Just fine.
Mrs. Price, you have any children?
Yes, I have one.
You just have one child.
Uh-huh.
Okay, what's that child's name?
Terry Johnson.
Terry Johnson. Is he in school?
Yes, he is.
Where is he in school?
In Putnam City West.
Wait a minute, Putnam City West.
Uh-huh.
Now let me see. Putnam City West, that means those people that wanted to get away from integration in Oklahoma moved to Westwood. Did they move? Is that out there by the lake?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Sure is.
Putnam City West. Now, is your son in Putnam City West school?
No, he was expelled.
He was expelled. Was he in school at the beginning of the year?
Uh-huh.
He was in school.
Yes, he's
What
in
grade
school.
is he in?
He's in 11th grade.
Why was he expelled?
For talking to a girl, a light-skinned girl, going down the hall with this light-skinned girl, and the coach snatched him out of the group.
Okay, he was going, let me see now the picture. He was going down the hall with a light-skinned girl.
Mhm.
Well, they did that in Hoffman, Oklahoma. We had a lot of light-skinned people there, and they all walked down the hall. He was just walking down the hall with the girl. Was he hugging the girl?
No, they were playing, they said. And
Oh, they were playing in the
Uh-huh,
hall.
and
What kind of play?
well, he said they were kind of just touching each other. And
Oh, they were touching each other.
Uh-huh.
They were touching each other in the hall, and the football coach
Snatched him out and said, I told you to leave her alone.
snatched him out. And is that his daughter?
No.
Okay, the football coach. What's his name anyway? What? Okay,
Mr. Cherry.
Who?
Mr. Cherry.
Mr. Cherry.
Uh-huh.
And Mr. Cherry must have been trying to cut down a cherry tree, but he sure is not an educator. Now, you mean to tell me he told this young man that if I told you, had he told him before,
Uh-huh.
not to be with this young lady?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Now, you're telling my radio audience, 600,000 of them, that your son was walking down the hall with a light-skinned girl. And your son is just a pretty peach color anyway. He's
Yes, he
walking
is.
down the hall, and he was expelled.
Uh-huh.
For how long?
For 2 days until I could bring him back to school. And when I called the principal about the deal, they came home and they told me what happened. And I called the principal Friday morning and told him that I wanted a meeting that afternoon with him and the coach and the 2 kids, and we were all coming up. He went up to the classroom and expelled the girl from school for the entire year.
Wait a minute. He expelled the girl
For the
from the
entire
school for the entire year?
Yes, and she was in class, and he come and got her.
The principal?
The principal.
Oh, that can't happen in
And
Oklahoma.
my son was already expelled for the 2 days until I brought him back. But after I heard what happened, I called him that evening, and he expelled her. I went to the school and took both children's back so I could hear both parts. And when I walked in, he asked her, "What are you doing here, Fanchester? I told you not to come back here no more." I said, "Well, I brought her up here because I want to hear what is going on. I want the truth. I want to know." And they told me a little side of the story. But on the phone, when I talked to him, he stated to me, "I told your son to stay away from her, and I told Francesca, if I can't help her, if she doesn't help me, she got to stay away from him, not go over to his house, not to go to any football games, not anything with him." And when they were together, he expelled her because they were seeing each other off the school grounds, or like on the weekend, and going to football games. He doesn't even want that.
Okay, you're confusing me. What does he have to do? Under what law is he operating to regulate the love affairs of teenagers?
That's what I just don't understand. I think that he has a prejudice problem against black and white mixture, or he likes her himself.
Okay, that's what you think.
Yes.
Well, I think that he's missing the boat, and I think we're going to have to go out. I want to go out to Putnam City West. That would be some good business, and I think I'll call that principal in the morning. I want in writing exactly what you have told me, Mrs. Price, that this young lady has been expelled because of the fact that she is interested in a black student.
Yes, and the way he put it, that either my son would go to school and she would stay out, or either she would go to school and he would keep him out. And he gives him permission to come back to school on Monday, which I don't really want my child under him if he's like this, if he's prejudiced or if he likes children. I don't want my kid attending under him because
Is he in one of his classes?
he's the principal.
He's a principal.
Because if the principal and the coach is picking at him and he knows that he's dating this girl, they're going to continue until they get him out of school. And this kind of thing we don't need in our school system, because we don't need our children under no one that's teaching children like this.
Okay, now let me give you some motherly advice.
have an idea?
Your child has the right to go to school.
That's
The
right.
principal does not finance the schools in Putnam City West. And what you're going to do, you're going to send him back to school, and I want his head up, and I want him in that school.
Yes.
And I want this young lady to bring to me, when they expel you, did they give you the reason? Did they give to the young lady the reason why they were expelling her?
Well, he told me that he would expel her because she missed a few classes at school, which my son has missed a couple of classes. But I know